Welcome to the party. I'm not here right now, but I want you to listen very carefully. Enough talk. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Bags of Actions. My name's Steve, my co-host is Pete.
Hello.
This episode we are talking about the 2013 film Olympus Has Fallen, starring Gerard Butler, Aaron Eckhart, Dylan McDermott and Morgan Freeman.
Amongst others,
Amongst many others, yes, who we'll come into.
We will.
So this is 4 years old. I was amazed that it's 4 years old. I know there's a sequel, which we haven't talked about. We can talk a little bit about later.
Yep.
I heard about this at the time. This came out the same year as White House.
The Channing Tatum one, isn't it?
Not seen that either.
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay. And I just thought this was going to be massively over the top, crazy bonkers, and yet it's directed by one of our favourites, Antoine Faqua.
I was very surprised by that fact. So Antoine Faqua, Training Day, The Equalizer, Magnificent Seven, which I think you've seen but I haven't seen.
Yes.
But it's a weird, because I don't know if you know much about Millennium Films, who made this.
Not really, no. Tell me.
Feature production. Well, so it's produced by Boaz Davidson, who's a name I know from back in the day, and Avi Lerner, who's another name I know from back in the day. Now, Avi Lerner has produced 286 films.
Okay.
Many of which feature Van Damme or Seagal or Wesley Snipes or Dolph Lundgren. Mm-hmm. And they kind of, reading up on him, he's very much seen as a B-movie producer. And he comes from the kind of canon film school of don't waste money you don't have to.
Yeah.
And put out stuff that you think people are going to like, but it doesn't have to be high art, I guess. So very much seen as being a B-movie producer until he did Rambo, and then off the back of that and the relationship with Stallone, did The Expendables, and then since then has done things like The Mechanic, which we also covered, and obviously the other Expendables films and stuff, and has kind of started working on bigger budgets, but still kind of with a B-movie head-on.
Yes.
In a way. So it's an interesting fusion of kind of like a B-movie film. So again, most of his 90s films and 80s films are all straight to video.
Yeah.
But with a director who's kind of, very, very highly regarded.
Definitely.
And the writers are a married couple who also wrote Expendables 3. And then this, and then the sequel to this. And I think that's about it.
Right, okay.
Maybe they met at a dinner party.
Maybe they did.
Maybe.
So I've not seen many films with Gerard Butler in, who's the main star of this. I know he was in 300. I've not met many people our age or up to 20 years younger who didn't at least see the first 300.
I saw the first one, yeah.
Because at the time it was very, very unique in terms of the use of CGI and what they did and the way it was, the kind of Frank Miller stuff and all of that angling and the slow-mo and almost the bullet time stuff that they integrated to a degree that we'd not seen. In some ways, it's sort of a strange follow-on from the Matrix style in some ways, and all that kind of thing. So I'd seen him in that, and I hadn't seen him in much else. And looking back over his filmography, I'm sort of thinking, oh yeah, I missed that, or I didn't see that for some reason, or, I just never got around from that. And I know that
bits of Law Abiding Citizen, but I haven't seen it all. What else?
He's done a bunch of other things. That was that gun something preacher or something. There you go.
Machine Gun Preacher. Yeah.
So for a few years, he was doing quite a few action films with him in the lead. But for whatever reason, I've just not got to see him until this. Really, he did Phantom of the Opera as well.
I saw the first half an hour of that.
Did he fall asleep?
I turned it off because there's too much singing.
It's a musical, right?
I do, but I don't. For some reason, I thought they'd be speaking as well. I thought there'd be occasional speaking,
not enough speaking for you.
I don't think it was any. I don't remember any speaking.
The music of the night, and all that jazz.
Yeah, I'm a Michael Crawford purist at the end.
Okay. So I hadn't seen him in a lot in the main roles like this.
Okay.
And I was quite surprised by how much I enjoyed him in this.
Did you know he was Scottish?
Yes.
Okay.
I was thinking about that, going, yes.
Yeah.
It's like him and Dougray Scott and...
Dougray Scott, sorry, just like tangent, but having watched Logan recently, I thought Dougray Scott must be just sitting in a cinema on his own crying.
Because he turned down Wolverine, didn't he?
He turned it down to be in Mission Impossible 2.
Oh, gutted. Yeah, that burns now.
Yeah.
You've seen Logan, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
And?
Wow.
Maybe we should actually do that one episode, because it counts. It's an action film.
I think it counts. Interesting. My choice next.
We'll talk about that later. So I was quite impressed with him. I don't know if it was the script. I don't know if it was the direction. It was, in a way, Die Hard in the White House, more or less. He didn't quite have the white vest, and climbing through air vents and stuff. But there was somebody in an air vent. But I thought he was really quite good. What about you?
I think he was okay.
Go on.
Should we say? Well, I guess most people. I guess please, if you haven't seen the film, pause, watch the film, come back, because we do spoil. We do spoil. I mean, I was going to say the plot is pretty strict. The title is kind of there, and we've already kind of mentioned it. Essentially, South Korean terrorists, I think. North Korean terrorists posing as South Korean, take over the White House, and one person has to save the day. It is the Die Hard and many other films formula. And I thought Gerard Butler was okay, and I do like him, and I have seen him in other things, but I think what makes something like Die Hard, to a lesser extent something like Under Siege, and even something like Sudden Death work, is the charisma of the person that's on their own, that's trying to do all this stuff. I just found him a bit of a blank slate.
He was quite flat.
Yeah, and that my biggest thing overall with the film is just it took itself really. It is essentially a B movie, heightened, but it takes itself so seriously, and at times it felt like a parody to me because of that.
Okay.
I really. This is when without spoiling my own bag count, I really struggled with this one.
I'm surprised.
Really struggled.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, what about some of the other characters? Did you have any favourites?
No. I didn't think that there were. Do you know what? The best performance in it for me, by an absolute country mile, was Aaron Eckhart as the president. I think he's by far the best thing in it.
I'll tell you. Go on, after you, go on.
I think he elevates every scene he's in. Everyone else, I just thought there's some really good. I mean, you mentioned some of the cast. Like Ashley Judd is in it for a couple of minutes.
Is she?
Rada, she's the wife.
Oh, right. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Rada Mitchell, who used to be in Neighbours and Pitch Black, was in it as well.
Oh, that's where she's from.
Really good. Yeah.
Pitch Black.
Yeah.
Oh God, no! Thanks for that.
Morgan Freeman does the Morgan Freeman thing. Angela Bassett is a brilliant actress, but gets very little to do. To me, Cole Howes is in it a bit, also from Pitch Black. Dylan McDermott again, and Robert Forster. When he turned up, that's when I really thought it was a parody, because I don't know,
as a 4-star general.
Yeah, it's just I didn't think there was enough characterization to actually have an opinion about any of the other characters. So
I'll tell you. So I'm going to say you're wrong. The best guest character in the whole film and the best performance.
The son?
Nope.
Oh.
It's Melissa Leo as Secretary of Defense Ruth McMillan.
Okay, that's a valid point.
Because we're spoiling this film, so it doesn't matter. So we're in the worst bit of the film, like as in the most horrific bit, where they're trying to get the codes for the Chimera thing. And they need 3 codes. And he's already got the general to cough up his code. And he agrees to do it. And then they get her. And she, she's this tiny little woman. And Rick Yune, who's playing Kang, just asks her the code. And she just goes, "Fuck you." And then he just punches her, and she doesn't budge, and he kicks her, and she doesn't budge, and he's just like absolutely kicks her down the stairs and gets her up. And the president's like, just give it to her, and she won't, and she just starts saying, "I serve the United States," the flag, and her performance is fantastic because she will not budge, and no matter what he's going to do to her, she's not going to budge, and you just know that he's going to end up beating her to death. But the president can't stand to see. He can't. So he's the one that gives in, and he orders her to do it. But she was brilliant, and even when they get her back and she's given the code and they handcuff her back up, they try to take her away, and she's kicking them and she's punching them. And the little conversation that she has with him is really, really good, and that was the best thing in the film. I bought that she was tough as nails.
I'm just thinking what else. I'm looking at what else she's been in. The Equalizer.
A lot of stuff. Yeah. She's been in tons of things. Going back.
Oh, without spoiling, she's in London Has Fallen.
Oh, there you go. Not too surprising, given that how else would you get a Secret Service agent to London?
That's true.
Yeah, but she was fantastic.
Okay, that's a valid point. That is a valid point.
If you're playing it seriously, she played that scene completely seriously.
But did you not? It threw me that Morgan Freeman wasn't the president. That threw me completely.
Yeah,
because
he's the speaker, yeah.
I think in all the trailers, I just assumed that he was the president. So it's like, he's not the president. But he's acting president. It got very 24 at times.
It did.
One of the guys looked like Mike Pence. That really confused me, as I thought it was a documentary at one point. And I don't know. It's interesting. It's been a while since we didn't agree on a film, but I think there's so many things in it. We talked before on lots of films about like foreshadowing and things that get set up. Yeah. What I struggle with as well is there's quite a lot of things in this film that are set up but never pay off. So at the start, it's like, it's a bit like Last Boy Scout or In the Line of Fire, because he's kind of responsible, not directly, but he has to choose between the First Lady and the President at the start, basically. And obviously, as his role would need to be, he chooses
the President.
And the film is kind of him being redeemed from that, but it's not really. They don't really do much with that. And the biggest problem for me, and what usually happens is I watch these films with less of a concentration span than you, and I go, this didn't work, and you go, what about that scene? I go, oh yeah, I didn't notice. So you might be about to tell me, but there's a weird thing, right? So the lead terrorist guy, Kang, knows who Mike Banning, who's the main character, he knows who his wife is, and that she works at a hospital. Yeah? Yep. So you think, okay, I can tell where this is going, but that's quite interesting. That at some point they're going to take her hostage, and he's going to have to make a difficult decision. What will he do? And it's like, he couldn't save the wife of the president. Now can he save his own wife? Interesting. I'm on board for that. And it feels like the kind of thing that maybe was in the script, or maybe even was filmed and then was edited out, because you think, okay, that's been built up. That threat has been introduced. Then he fakes his own death, and then like 5 minutes later, he goes, "I'm alive," which was weird. There's no real time for them to think that he's dead, so I didn't see what the point of it was. And then, as soon as he's announced he's alive, why didn't they go after his wife, who he was still phoning?
Okay.
Do you not think if a terrorist says that you're the only person that can stop these terrorists, and they say they know who your wife is and where she works, they're not doing a survey? I don't think. Are they? Am I missing something? Do you not think that they should have then have gone after her?
Okay, so
you tell me. Do you not remember the scene where?
No, I'm just amused at your venom for this film.
I don't. Well, it's just like I don't. If a film's light on plot, that's fine. But when you set things up which make perfect sense and you don't pay them off. I feel cheated, Steve. I feel cheated.
I thought what was going to happen was Kang would escape the White House.
Yep. And
the last scene, or last couple of scenes, would be the president's okay, Butler's there, Kang was supposed to be dead in an ambulance. And it's almost like the Con Air thing where, it seems to be over, but no, look, he's now no longer along. He's not in the ambulance anymore.
And make it more personal.
Where's he gone? He's gone to the hospital after Mike's wife. And that's what I thought we were going to get.
Me too.
But we didn't. But
it could be asked.
Well, yeah, it was strange that he knew his wife, he knew who he was, but I think that was just pointing to the fact that it's to show that Kang knew everything. He'd spoken to Forbes, who was Dylan McDermott's character, who'd betrayed them and told them everything, and he'd given them all the inside information. I think it was trying to show that he was clever and he knew lots of stuff. I also think that they'd probably oversubscribed the number of men that they were expecting, the number of terrorists, and all of them were dead, like every single one of them, apart from the 10 left in the White House, who he then killed. So I don't think they had, like, B team outside, go here. I don't think there was any. They had them in the garbage trucks. They all got wiped out. They had them on the lawn. They all got wiped out. They had them on the roof. They all got killed. They had 10 that they sacrificed. Well, actually, it was only 2.
For the Hydra 3.
In the helicopter, where, there was like...
I have to say, though, I have some technical issues with the film as well, but the sequence where they took the White House is one of the longest action scenes probably in movie history.
Yes.
It's about half an hour.
It is. It's almost as bad as Mad Max Fury Road. But
nice.
We'll come back to that.
We have the opposite opinions on that one, I think.
Really? All right. The bit that I don't understand is, right, they killed everybody apart from Banning and the president because we saw them put hoods on everybody.
Yeah.
And except for 2 terrorists who wore bombs, who then killed themselves by blowing up the helicopter with them all on, making them think that Kang and everybody was dead, when of course he wasn't. So how on earth is Melissa Leo's character going to be in the next one, given that she and all of the other hostages died?
That's true. Maybe she's a ghost.
Maybe she's haunting.
Or a flashback. It could be a flashback.
Maybe. Anyway, so there's some bits that were a bit weird that I didn't quite get, but the pace of the film was quite relentless. It was nearly 2 hours long, I think. But,
yeah, it could have done with being about half an hour shorter.
Oh, you Mark Kermode did it. I knew you were going to say that. He says that about every film, apart from horror films. He says, can we do with 30 minutes less? And it's like, okay. I was all right with it. I didn't feel that the length of the film was too bad. I just kept... There's so much going on all the time that I never really got bored. I didn't have time to get bored.
Yeah, I feel bad though. I haven't bagged on a film like this in a long time. So
this is good. This is nice. It's a different opinion.
Well, I put like, some of my notes. Banning is like me when I do paintball. That's not true.
What? What, you shoot everybody?
He's how I think I am at paintball. That makes more sense. Okay. This makes Under Siege look like it should win Oscars. It's been 40 minutes. There's no characterization whatsoever. Just the White House being taken over. If it wasn't for the podcast, I would turn this off.
Wow, our scores are going to be way different on this one.
Maybe it's just like I was going, okay, let's compare it to Die Hard. Mm-hmm. Even maybe Die Hard 2. Mm-hmm. Con Air, as I said, Sudden Death, Under Siege, etc., 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 etc. And I thought, well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the stuff with the son is quite interesting, and the relationship with him and Banning, kind of. But then getting him out of the White House was easy. I thought it was too easy. The tension between the president and the inside man was really... I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I've read the Oval Office set was less convincing than Madame Tussauds.
Wow. Oof. You can
anyway,
film a bashing.
Carry on, because that's make it one-way traffic. You tell me what you liked about it.
Okay. This is fun. I thought, he was a bit flat. There wasn't a lot going on. They were trying to do the stuff at the beginning to show that despite the tragedy, him and his wife were sort of getting on, and they've kind of moved past it, where she pretends that he's not paying attention, and then he has to go and He says, "Okay, I'll buy the coffee." So he's trying, but clearly, even though it's been 18 months, you know that he's still thinking about it, because doesn't he have a flashback at one point?
Yeah, I think he maybe more than once. I think whenever he sees a son, that kind of reminds him.
Something like that. So he has a couple of flashbacks, and he's obviously bored in the job. And you're wondering how long he's going to last, and everyone keeps saying, no, his boss even says, just give it time, he'll get over it, and then you'll be back on the team. Angela Bassett as the sort of the head of the Secret Service. And he's basically did a desk job now, just doing paperwork all day. But even then, he's looking out the window and looking at the White House. So they kind of foreshadowed it, that even if he wasn't the main actor in the show, in the film, you'd be like, okay, his story is he's going to try and redeem himself. You knew that was coming. So they foreshadowed that. They've done stuff with the son by saying he knows how many steps it is from here to here. He knows this. He knows about the White House.
That was one of the best bits, actually. Yeah. The fact that he'd kind of been coaching the son on the security, and then the son could use that to get away. So he kind of saved the son's life twice in a way.
Yeah, but he also saw there's the bits where they can't find the son, and Mike goes into the walls, and the son's there, and it's like, well, of course that's where he'd be. He knows the White House inside and out. So that was quite cool. The fact that Morgan Freeman wasn't the president, and then because the vice president and the president weren't available, the speaker becomes the president, which I didn't know, and now I do.
No,
so
no.
There you go.
So does that mean who is the speaker now?
I don't know.
We don't know.
But there's quite an amusing bit that was just really weird, where they kind of turn to Morgan Freeman and say, "Okay, so what do we do?" And he goes, "Mary, I like a coffee with half and half and 3 sugars." Do you remember that? It's like this. Yeah. It's like a comedy sketch. It was like a skit where he says that, and everyone just stops and looks at him. And I was like, "Did I miss something?" And then he just makes the big decision. I don't know. Maybe that was just like Morgan actually wanted a coffee, or it was.
They left it in.
Maybe, but it was a weird kind of like ad-libbed, odd thing in the sketch that was his characterization bit. There wasn't a lot. There was Mike talks to his wife on the phone, leaves a voicemail. That's his bit. Morgan Freeman orders a coffee. That's his bit.
I did feel that this film in many ways was working its way through a checklist of things that needed to be in a film. But the other thing I felt didn't quite work story wise is so this whole thing of like, well, his son's in there, because the son is in there. The president will give up the codes, because obviously he will give up the nuclear codes in order to save his son. And I thought, I don't think you're supposed to do that if you're president. Now, a normal regular person, yes. Totally. I am a firm believer, 1,000,000%. Put your kids first. But the reason I'm not the only reason I'm not running for president, I'm not actually eligible, me or Arnold, is that you would, I know his wife's already died, but he would have to still not give the codes up. Even if they killed his son in front of him, he would, as president, be expected, I thought, to still not give the codes up.
Yeah,
because surely his job is commander-in-chief to protect millions of people, not one person, even if that is his child. But in this, like, well, his son's in there. We've got to get his son out, because if not, we're all screwed.
Yeah, but come on. The whole point is they're trying to show that he's human. The fact that he wouldn't let them kill the general, he wouldn't let them torture and beat Secretary Jacobs to death. Defense Secretary Macmillan. He couldn't just stand to watch them. So he was compassionate, and they were basically using his compassion against him to the point where they were going to kill his son, or they're going to threaten his son. Yeah. But ultimately, they didn't even need to do that.
No, they didn't need to do that.
And he's still responsible for the final disaster, because they couldn't have activated any of the Chimera
if he hadn't given them the first code.
If he hadn't have told the other two to give up their codes, it would have took them a lot longer to hack it. Yeah. They wouldn't have been able to get all 3 through hacking. Maybe one.
He shouldn't get a second term, this guy.
Well, yeah.
But I think he's in the sequel, so I'm assuming he does.
Yeah. But there was some amusing foreshadowing bits, like the fact that Banning says to Kang, "I'm gonna kill you with my knife and stab you in the head with it." And then he does that. He actually does that, which is quite nice. I like the fact that he didn't believe Forbes, Dylan McDermott's character. He didn't just go, "Oh yeah, you're obviously on my side and everything's fine."
I thought they were gonna drag that out, but it was good that he kind of called his bluff straight away.
Yeah, and he just straight away, and the fact that he's still really hardcore compared to Forbes, and he just took him apart in a couple of minutes. It didn't, as you say, it didn't have a 10-minute fight. He just says, "Oh, blah blah, old man" or something earlier on. Someone else says this to him, and they just take him. He takes him down really quickly. I thought was quite nice.
Yeah, I mean, I no, you carry on because I don't want to be.
You want to get to your terrible score. Okay.
Well, no, I just. It's difficult because I don't think anyone wants to listen to me for like an hour just saying I didn't like this and I didn't like that. So you carry on.
Balance, Pete. We're all about balance.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah. What else did I like? I like the action. Let's talk about the action. I like the action in this film in terms of. I know it was long, but the setup they used to how they breached the White House was quite clever. That they initially had someone blow open the gates and the railings, and then there's 50 tourists just stood there, and all of a sudden they all start pulling guns out and running along and running in. The garbage trucks were quite cool, where they blew off the tires and then they had massive machine guns inside. But I really like the direction in terms of the fighting that Gerard Butler's character did. So he, even though he was, an American character and he had a gun that was only a handgun, he didn't fire 15 times to take down one person.
No, that's true. He's very efficient.
He'd pose and wait and brace himself against a tree, wait for a second, and then just shot someone, boom, in the head once. And that was the sniper out. Or he looked around and thought, hang on, who's shooting so-and-so? Where's that coming from? And you could see him, and he spots the guy, takes a breath, pauses, boom, one shot, dead. So I like the fact that they did that, and he actually... It wasn't quite the John Wick thing where the double tap.
No.
But he made sure they were dead before he moved on.
Yeah, and whatever else I did believe that he was capable of the things he did as a character. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He was properly hardcore, and the fact that when he put on the... he almost did the commando thing where he finally gets in the White House and he's lost his gun. Then he gets into the control room and takes out that one guy. And he puts on the vest that's got grenades and tear gas and handguns, and he puts on all the clips, and then he takes a rifle, and it's that's what you do. You'd gear up.
That is true. That is very true.
But yes, he was convincing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, again, full disclosure, my day job is, part of it is as a VFX producer, so the visual effects in this film are shockingly bad. I thought they really took me out of the film, but again, because I'm reviewing that kind of work in the day, and again, I don't want to criticize anyone's work because because there is a half an hour action scene, and nearly all the helicopters and things are virtual. There's so much they had to do that so much of it doesn't look particularly great, and the trouble is because I'm close to that kind of thing, that takes me so out of what I'm watching that I probably couldn't appreciate a lot of the things that you just said.
I didn't notice
because I was really struggling.
Probably because I'm not close to that kind of stuff that I didn't notice it, or I wasn't looking for it. I guess it's what we're used to. If it's something that's I don't know if it's something content that I was closer to, I'd be looking out for all the Easter eggs and all the cameos. Whereas because you work in visual effects, you're looking for the seams to see where the CGI or the models end and the real stuff begins. I'm never going to watch Lord of the Rings with you, Pete. That would just be a nightmare.
Oh no, that's good.
No, with you guys.
Although it's
that's
probably
a
hasn't
model.
aged that well.
Oh, look at the visual effects there. That's
it's
awful.
It's
That Hobbit's not real.
It's like anything, though, isn't it? If something's shot badly or anything that isn't quite to the same level, it took some things took me out of the film. So, the other note I had at this point was these are good actors saying bad lines and fighting. You might as well just cast fighters in a way, because it's got, for me, and I know some of the lines in this film are poor, and they're really cheesy, but they're not delivered in like a humorous way. So like, let's play a game of fuck you. I'll go first. It's just like it felt like this kind of things that when I did like GCSE drama and you'd write your own stories to do with your mates. It just, I don't know. I'd rather it was kind of like like a Hunt for Red October type kind of earnestness, or the kind of Under Siege kind of everything is really slightly tongue in cheek, and it just didn't land with me, I guess, from that perspective.
So this film was 2013. If this film was done in the 80s and they were saying those kind of things, and you were talking about it, you'd be like, "That's fine."
It would, and I mean that's the weird thing, but equally, and it is similar to those kind of films in lots of ways. But Die Hard was in the 80s.
Was it?
Yeah, of course it was.
88. Well done.
Yeah. So if you're going to say, the comparison you've got is the film that it's almost identical to in many ways, which was made in the 80s.
Maybe it's a homage, Pete.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it was written in the 80s and they didn't actually make it until now because nobody wanted to see the White House blow up.
That's true. I mean, the bit where they put the hoods over people's heads.
Yes.
Mentioned before, because I thought, okay, that again, a bit like in if you remember in Under Siege. Have you seen Under Siege?
Yes.
Have you seen Under Siege 2 on a train?
No.
No, that's not as good.
Yes.
So yeah, in that they I think from memory they pretend to be the hostages. Right. I might be wrong. That might be the wrong film. But I thought that's what was going to happen here. But it kind of they did that and then they kind of blew them up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just really surprised. I thought you would come in and go, brilliant, loads of action, lots going on. I mean, compared to The Equalizer, and so obviously Antoine Faqua didn't write either of the films.
No.
And this is only a year before he did The Equalizer. And the difference in the scripts is very, very clear. So the writers of the Equalizer one is Richard Wenck and Michael Sloan, it says, I think. So the characterization, he also worked on the TV series as well. Michael Sloan. So I don't know. There must have been something in it for the director to say, yeah, I'll do that. Maybe he wanted to do a really big set piece action film, which of course he's gone on to do again in things like Magnificent Seven, more of a period action piece. So there must have been something in it for him to want to do this.
Yeah.
But
he didn't come back for the sequel.
No. I don't know if he does many sequels. I think he's kind of like Denzel, that he doesn't do them until
they both do Equalizer 2.
Yeah,
that's true.
It looks like that's the only time he's done that. But
have you seen Southpaw?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay, that's him too.
So he did Shooter. Now this is another action film with Mark Wahlberg. Have you seen that one?
I can't remember.
Well,
I think I have.
He's not a rifleman. He's a sniper who's framed for something, and I think I have. It's a bit. He goes on the run, and they blame him for trying to kill somebody and say he's the guy that's responsible, but he's set up to try and pretend and all this kind of stuff. It's really, really quite a good film actually. I really enjoyed that one, and it's I don't know. It's more like The Fugitive, that one, with someone on the run. Whereas this feels very much like a siege kind of film. So maybe that's the thing that interests him, that he hadn't done a siege kind of film before in an action thing, and he wanted to do it and put his mark on it. Now there's elements where I can feel the director, I think, particularly not the script obviously because he can't do much with that, but the action scenes and The set piece at the beginning was massive. The fight choreography and some of those things, I think, have his mark on it. But, as you said, you've got fantastic actors saying terrible lines. You can't really cut around that. Characterization was thin. There again, you can't really do much about that if the script isn't there. So, I don't know, maybe he just wanted to create the most bombastic action spectacle that he could with the material that was there. And if that's what he was trying to do, I think he was successful in that. If he's trying to make a serious film, then as you say, it didn't really work because it's hard to take serious.
I think the biggest problem is just it sat in the middle, like I say. So had it done, and we've said this about The Expendables in a way, had it actually embraced the fact that it's ridiculous, and put its tongue firmly in his cheek, I probably would have a completely different opinion of it.
Yeah,
I think.
So the third one, wow, is next
Angel.
year. Angel Has Fallen. Terrorists are now targeting Mike Banning on Air Force One. So that's executive decision then.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's the same writers.
As executive decision, as the first two. Yeah. They get to complete their trilogy.
Oh no! Hang on. Did they write London Has Fallen?
Yeah.
Yes, they did. Interesting. Right. So, yeah. Okay. I'll have to come on to that in a minute. Interesting. All right.
Sorry.
No, don't be. It's just fun.
Part of me, because usually when we talk about a film, it goes up in my estimations. And I don't know, part of me's like, well, maybe I was in a bad mood. Was I tired? Are you tired, Pete? But the more we talk about this, is doing the opposite. It's just confirming. But again, it's only an opinion, as all these things are.
This is good, though. This is good. It's good.
And there's some of the films I absolutely love. Some of my favourite films. I've done this show with you, and
Blind
you've
Fury.
been like, "What the hell was that?"
Blind Fury.
You don't. Although I've just started watching The Last Kingdom, and you get to see Rutger Hauer being a blind guy again.
Oh, right. Wow. Okay.
So, typecast.
Yeah, that's it. That and androids. Okay. I think it's time to get to the scores.
Enough with the yakety yak. What is your score?
Pete, I want you to go first.
Okay. Well, I love this film, and I think they should make more of them.
They are. Well done.
No, I don't know. It's a weird thing because this film has done really well and is really popular and is going to be a trilogy. So, saying that, there are 700 Fast and the Furious films, so who knows what's going on in cinema these days. I think this was, for me personally, a massive missed opportunity. I thought it was very predictable. As I say, if you typed into a computer, write me a Siege film, this is the one that would probably come out. Mm-hmm. In many ways, I thought it was overly earnest. The one-liners were just kind of people swearing, and I think like Morgan Freeman, Angela Bassett, and Robert Forster are three great actors that looked bored out of their minds, and like they were waiting for the script to turn up.
Yeah,
Aaron Eckhart I thought was really good, but the main thing for me was I'd just seen this before, and like John McClane and even Mason Storm are charming people that you root for. But with Banning, I was like, if he gets shot, he gets shot. Really? I just didn't care. And it's like, and I know, this is an action movie podcast, and I guess it wasn't exhilarating enough for me to not worry about the characterization. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't emotionally invested enough to not worry about some of the bits that didn't quite work action-wise. I said things were set up that were never paid off at all. It was longer than it needed to be. There were some neat aspects, and it was a different type of villains, which was interesting. As you said, how they got into the White House was interesting, but it just kind of fizzled along, really, for me, dramatically. Yeah. So I'm going to give it one bag.
Wow, Pete slams Olympus Has Fallen.
I think that's my lowest ever score.
I think we've given one bag to stuff before.
I don't know if I have.
Really?
I don't know. I'm Mr. Positivity. Comparatively.
Yeah. Okay. So I was looking at the numbers. The budget for this was 70 million. Worldwide, it made 170 million.
Congratulations.
That's the most backhanded. Congratulations. Yes, lovely. London Has Fallen. You'll be pleased to know, Pete, the budget was only 60 million, so 10 less, right?
It's because it's in Britain.
It made 205 million worldwide. So it did. That's why there's a third one, Pete. It did even better than the... No, you're right. You're right. Because you said, there are 12 Fast and Furious films, and I think they're and I wouldn't use the script to wipe my bottom with. So it's all down to personal taste.
It is.
I thought this was fun. I watched it in one sitting. I thought I was going to be bored. I thought, it's just going to be one of those films where I'm not going to enjoy it. I'll watch an hour and then I'll leave it and I'll come back the next day and watch the next hour and I'll get through it. That was kind of my approach. I thought I'll just get through it. But I didn't really pay too much attention to the time. I quite enjoyed it. The pace was very, very fast. So as a result of that, you're right, there wasn't a lot of characterization. They had the odd little, a bit part or a little quirk, and that was it in terms of characterization. Morgan Freeman with his coffee, Mike with ringing his wife, the ice cream Aaron Eckhart thing with the son. There's little touches, but I think they sacrificed character for action and plot for explosions. A lot of big names, not given a lot to do. It was very, very earnest. There wasn't a lot of humour in it, and what there was didn't really land that well. But I enjoyed the action. I enjoyed Gerard Butler more than I was anticipating as a leading man, especially in this kind of a role, but he was particularly flat. Now, I don't know if that's just down to him or the script. I'm going to be generous and assume that there was so little in the script he had difficulty doing it. But there again, if the film does really, really well and you're not that keen on it, but they offer you another massive payout, are you going to turn down a sequel?
He's a producer as well, so he'll be pleased that it's done very well.
Yeah, and then they say, "Oh, do you want to do a third one? We'll give you a big fat paycheck again." Oh, go on. Well,
I think he's almost become a bit like Charles Bronson or Chuck Norris was for Canon Films, because he's got other things coming up with him as well.
Right.
Which, let me have a quick look. Keep talking.
So, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was brilliant. So I'm actually going to give it 3 bags.
Okay.
It's not. We've said this before. For us to give a film 5, it has to be absolutely spectacular. It's Dredd, it's John Wick. 4 doesn't mean that it's awful. It just means it's not near perfect. And 3's kind of okay with some good bits. So that's my kind of scoring system for this. I think it's okay with some good bits, but it suffered for various elements, as you've described.
Okay. So I feel like I might have talked you down a bag.
No, I haven't changed my score. It's written down.
Fine. Good. Yeah. Good. I should be handing it in to
I'll hand it in, Pete. I'll hand it in.
We should do that. We should post our score to each other in advance and then not open it until the day.
Let's say you move.
That would be
score.
Great.
Yes.
Well, Gerard Butler's next film with the same producer looks interesting, actually. Hunter Killer. Submarine Commander. With Gary Oldman, Billy Bob Thornton.
Is it a Red October redo? But not
it's an untested American submarine captain teams up with US Navy SEALs to rescue the Russian president who's been kidnapped by a rogue general. That could be a true story.
Very,
topical. Very topical.
Well done. Topical.
It's my turn, isn't it, to choose?
Okay, yeah. So that was Olympus Has Fallen. Have you seen
it?
What did you think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Have you seen the sequels? What did you think of them? So get in touch with us. Email us, bagsofaction@gmail.com. We've had a couple of emails recently from listeners with some recommendations for some films that we should do and some other things that are in there, so thanks for those. Follow us on Twitter, @bagsofaction. Come onto the Facebook group, post your ideas for future films, talk to the members of the group, and interact with us, the action film fans.
You have been listening to Bags of Action. You'd better stick around for the next episode, because if you're lying, I'll be back.